Week 6, Anti-Fascist Black Metal.
Sorry.
I'm Sam Sutherland, a person on the internet, and every week I'm trying to remember why I don't log off of Twitter forever. Never log on to Twitter ever again. I actually don't know why I don't do that. I probably should do that. But one of the reasons is that I find something that stokes me out every week and I put it in one of these videos, and this week that thing is anti-fascist black metal. I can already hear you typing. I can already read your comments. There is at least one video on this website making fun of me specifically for every episode of the show in which I've talked about black metal and how I'm like a libtard and a cuck and like a libtarded cuck, or whatever new creative thing there is to say about people who are not right of center politically, and to deign to talk about black metal. But this particular topic is one that is worth exploring because it has exploded in popularity and in relevance in the last few weeks, and in particular over the last few years. Like many of you, I took note of Neckbeard Death Camp's viral success with White Nationalism is for Basement-Dwelling Losers, their viral EP, their viral merchandise, and their eventual signing to Prosthetic Records. That was, of course, a seamless transition to my friend Will Eagle's house. Can I say your legal name?
Yes, you may.
Will Eagle's house. If you couldn't tell in that last scene, it was unspeakably hot in my house. We broke a heat record in Toronto today. It was 41 degrees, the hottest it's ever been on September 8th, 2018. And frankly, I fucking died. So now I'm here at Will's house, drinking rosé, the most black metal beverage imaginable, in front of the board for the YouTube book that he's working on. So be sure to buy Will's YouTube book when it comes out in
February 2019.
You heard it here first, folks. So black metal. The thing that made me want to do this video was Kim Kelly's recent article for Noisy entitled, and I'm going to look at my phone so I get it right, Riding the New Wave of Anti-Fascist Black Metal. And then, as I mentioned before, when I was exploding from heat death, it's no surprise that this moment is happening. Obviously, the politics in the United States are quite contentious. Black metal's always had a bit of an edge, but we are more polarized than ever, and it makes sense that extreme music would bring extreme viewpoints to the forefront at this time. Pointing to the success of Gaylord and Neckbeard Death Camp. Gaylord is the name of one of those bands, by the way. Gaylord is a non-binary black metal band, just so that it doesn't sound like really homophobic. The premise of the article is that while Gaylord and Neckbeard Death Camp have drawn a lot of attention for spoofing black metal, while being actually pretty authentic black metal records, that there are other exciting anti-fascist black metal bands that are worth your time if you want to go deeper into the anti-fascist black metal moment. For anyone whose brain isn't already decayed from constantly reading about meme metal on the internet, let's start with Gaylord as a primer here. The black metal scene needs to be destroyed from Gaylord, a non-binary black metal performer based out of the UK, but originally from Atlantic Canada. Thumbs up to Canada, a wonderful country. Sorry that I was talking so much shit on Ottawa in the last video. Came on the heels of Neckbeard Death Camp, using a lot of the same tropes and ideas to address the problems that Gaylord perceives in the scene. Neckbeard Death Camp are the OGs of this spoofy, memey, anti-fascist black metal movement, with songs like, and let's make sure that I get all of this correct, the fetishization of Asian women despite a demand for a pure white race, and of course their hit, Incel Warfare. These bands provoked very angry reactions amongst the true cult black metalers amongst you, who have already abandoned this video and are making another video about what a cuck I am, as mentioned earlier. The critique is a little confusing to me, because it supposes that there is only so much black metal to go around, and that if someone makes a jokey black metal record, someone else won't be able to make a very serious nihilistic black metal record. And that's not true. It's like when polyamorous explain how every human has a lot of love, and you can in fact have many wives. That's sort of what it is, right? If you want to know more about Gaylord or Neckbeard Death Camp, there are some great videos that already exist about both of those records and those performers. There are a lot of think pieces on the internet, and I put a few of them in the description for you to just spoil your goddamn brain with. But what's more interesting to me in Kim Kelly's article is the idea that these represent the tip of the iceberg for a burgeoning anti-fascist black metal movement. Underdarken and Dawn Raid are two prominent black metal bands that have already been beating this drum for several years, making extremely political anti-fascist metal inside of a community that maybe didn't always want to hear what they had to say. But today, as we face an increasingly polarized musical and political landscape, it's interesting that these bands were merely the warning shot, and that there is an entire growing movement of bands inside of the black metal community looking to explore differing political perspectives than those that maybe were explored by Varg Vikernes in the past. I put a bunch of links to those bands and articles about those bands in the description, so if this is the sort of thing that turns your lefty, commie pinko crank, take a look. But here's where I have a question, or maybe I want to offer some caveats. And again, I know the true cults among you have already long abandoned this video, but I'm going to express a degree of skepticism here. Surprise! There's no doubt that these bands are sick. I thought the Neckbeard Death Camp EP was very funny. I was very stoked when people shared it with me. I laughed a lot. I liked Dawn Raid. These are all good things. But here's where my question comes in. If we all hated black metal so much, why was anyone listening to it? And it's fair to criticize individual musicians and say that yes, Burzum is maybe a very problematic band, and it's worth gently chiding someone if you see them at a show with a Burzum shirt on. But what was it that ultimately drew any listener to this genre in the first place? It's a lie to pretend that it was just Venom records, because frankly, that's the kind of cartoonish beginning that led to all the insanely heavy and fucked up shit that we all really actually liked. And so while I think it's very exciting to have a non-binary performer like Gaylord subverting black metal tropes and making insanely sick music, the question is, does black metal need to be destroyed? Maybe it does, but why? And then why are we making black metal at all and listening to black metal? And why does every video that I make about black metal get a bunch of hits? Why am I saying the term black metal so much? Lena Dawes is a metal writer who wrote an amazing book called What Are You Doing Here? All about her experience as a woman of color in the metal scene. And right around the time when Neckbeard Death Camp was blowing up as this like fun, subversive idea that was really sticking it to all of the neo-Nazis in the heavy music community, she raised an interesting point. I'm going to read her tweet verbatim. This was in response to Neckbeard Death Camp selling merch that prominently featured Rick Ross's face. Black Images uses irony within a scene that has been historically intolerant of POCs is not that funny. I don't know the identity of any of the members of Neckbeard Death Camp, but I think it's worth asking, what are we subverting when a bunch of potentially white musicians yell at a bunch of other white people for being racist and then sell them images of people of color to show how woke they are? It's a little weird, and I think her question is extremely valid. Maybe it's more of a direct critique. There's not really a question mark in there. And so what interests me much more than simple satire is having musicians who have traditionally been excluded from heavy music environments invited in and allowed to participate in a way where they feel comfortable expressing their own individual creativity and point of view. I feel like one of the most exciting parts about watching movies, reading books, listening to music is understanding the perspective of people unlike myself expressed in an exciting and creative way. And so a metal record made by someone who's not necessarily a white dude, not that there's anything wrong with being a white dude making heavy music, is very interesting to me. And so more than jokey, preach to the choir heavy music about all of the tropes that we already know exist inside of a fairly insular and, funny scene, I would like to see more people of color, more women of color, more non-binary performers making heavy music from their perspective and enriching the entire heavy community. And that's what many of these bands are doing. The right has been very well represented in black metal, and now it's the left's turn. And that's very interesting to me. And so I encourage you to check out these bands even if you don't 100% agree with their political positions. So thank you, Anti-Fascist Black Metal, for giving me something to be stoked about this week. What was the most interesting thing that you learned about this week? Let me know in the comments, or on Twitter, or at the bar. Be excellent to each other, and stay stoked forever. And thank you to Will for this incredibly metal rosé. That was a very unpleasant way to drink wine.